Hey listeners, it's the Matt and Connor Show, episode number 2. It is Thursday, April 25th, NFL Draft Thursday. We've got an action-packed show for you today. We'll be touching on a little bit of the NFL Draft. We did give you our mock on episode 1, so if you didn't see that, make sure you check that out. We'll be talking about the Derrelle Revis deal, who lucked out on that one, who won the deal, Tampa Bay or New York. We'll also be talking a little bit about the NBA playoffs, how those series have kicked off, and some MLB headlines. So how are you doing today, Connor?
I'm doing fine. It's been good. Been a good life. Can't wait for NFL draft. It's going to be fun.
Oh, yeah.
Can't wait to see all Yeah. Can't wait to see all the hecticness of that first round. It's
Yeah, I have
like
to
no
say,
other draft sometimes.
one thing I like about the NFL draft that you don't always get in the NBA draft are those trades. There seems to always be some trade going on, which always makes it exciting.
Yeah, I heard this morning that Kansas City will be willing to trade their first overall pick if there's something good enough. And I don't know, that would be pretty amazing. I think Luke will fit perfectly within that system and help them out.
Well, wouldn't that be something? Well, earlier this week, we already saw a big trade go down. We saw the Tampa Bay Bucks. They landed Revis Island from the New York Jets, Derrelle Revis. He is going to the Bucks, for those of you who didn't hear about the deal. And the Jets in return got the Bucks' first-round pick, which I believe is the 9th pick, or it's the 13th pick. I'm not sure which one was originally the Bucks and which one's the Jets. But they're picking 9 and 13, I know, tonight. And they also got a draft pick for the future. It's a 3rd-round pick right now, but if Derrelle Revis is still on the Tampa Bay roster at a certain date, that pick will move up to a 2nd-round pick. So, who do you think won the deal, Connor?
Well, I gotta say, I think the Bucks won, and for a couple of reasons. Now, he is one of the best in the league, and he's going with earlier this season they got Dashawn Goldson and Mark Barron they got last year first round. Those guys, Dashawn is proven to be one of the best in the league, and Mark Barron has just such potential to be also one of the great safeties in the league. And I think the Bucks won on this one because in the division they're in, the NFC South, there's too many big play wide receivers. Jones, Roddy White, Colston, and even Steve Smith now and then. And I think with a deal like that, Bucks are easily winning this deal. I know you disagree with me. What do you think?
Well, it's funny because at first, I'll just say this. I have mixed feelings about this deal. When I first heard about the deal, I thought the Bucks won the deal. And I thought it was a stupid move by the Jets, more so a stupid move by the Jets. Because when you look at the Jets division, NFL teams, I think, they should always prepare to beat their divisional opponents. And you look at the Jets division, you have Tom Brady, the New England Patriots, who win it almost every year. And what do the Patriots do? They pass the ball well, and I think you need a cornerback if you're going to compete in that division. You have Tom Brady with the Patriots, as I mentioned. Who knows what the Bills are going to get in this draft? But they already have Stevie Johnson, who is, believe it or not, one of the better wide receivers in the AFC, in my opinion. And also Mike Wallace just signed with Miami, so that's another deep field threat that Derrelle Revis could definitely cover, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, I think it's better for the Bucks because they were the 2nd worst pass defense in the league. And, I mean, not just the addition of Revis, again, like I've said, but Goldson, those grabbing those guys in the off season, that's a strength. It was a weakness, but now who knows? They could be top 10, even top 5 with those kind of guys. And Revis, I feel for that secondary in New York, the Jets, I feel like he carried most of that team sometimes with his interceptions. Even though that team was just horrible, he carried them. But it was a sticky situation. And just like Orlando with Dwight, it seems like New York had to deal out Revis just so, there wasn't bad feelings and poor team chemistry next season.
Yeah, well, as you said, I think the Jets handled this. I don't think they could have handled the situation any worse than what they did.
Yeah.
They pretty much made it known ever since their new management came in this offseason that they wanted to get rid of Revis, and that's just not a good way to start off this offseason, in my opinion, especially when Revis is your best player and really the only guy who you could call a star on that roster. I think the only thing, I think it's a great move for Tampa Bay. As you said, their pass defense was awful last year. I think it's a good move. It helped address an area that they struggled in. But the only thing is the risk factor. This is a guy coming off of an ACL tear. He's still uncertain for week 1, so you never know how he's going to respond or how long it's going to take for Revis Island to get back to the form that it was, say, prior to the injury. But one thing I would like to add is that I think the Jets made a smart decision at the end of the day. I think, as we talked about, the management kind of screwed this thing up to begin with. They were going to have to get rid of him at some point. And, I kind of looked at this move similar to the way you might look at a star baseball player getting traded at the trade deadline. They're going to lose Revis. They were going to lose Revis anyway. They might as well try and get something for him. And I don't think they could have gotten a better possible deal than getting a top 10 pick in this year's draft. I think that's great.
Yeah, I agree. My last thing, and it's kind of a transition to the next topic, the Jets, I just think the Bucs ended up with the best deal. Not that the Jets ended up getting a bad return on investment, but this means this draft tonight that if D. Milliner drops to them, you got to think they're going to take him.
Yeah, I think definitely. I was hearing things that he could come in and replace Derrelle Revis. They do have Cromartie, who's a pretty good corner. But I think, with this added pick, you wonder what route the Jets are going to take. And I think one of the smartest picks, if he falls to them, is Tavon Austin out of West Virginia, the wide receiver. A lot was made about Mark Sanchez and is he the correct fit for the Jets? But let's face it. Now, I'm not a Mark Sanchez believer, but he had no one to pass to last season.
Fair
Just
enough.
No weapons at all. You got to at least make the defensive backs a little scared back there. I mean, Holmes, they do have Holmes, but he was hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't even name his wide receivers.
I mean, the only guy that comes to mind is Dustin Keller, and he's tight end. You got nobody on the outside. But, I mean, Tavon Austin with a 13th pick, D. Milliner, if he drops to 9, you got to take him. And I'm thinking, second round, I don't know where he's going to go. Tyrann Mathieu, right there, you're going to have to take the good with the bad. And his good is really good, but his bad is lowest as you can go. And, I mean, for the Jets, they need to take the risk if he's there, because they've got... You got to think about it this way. They've got really no fighting chance for playoffs this year. You kind of want to just work for the future. If you grab maybe D. Milliner first round and Tyrann Mathieu second round. You got good corners. And I mean, you have Cromartie as well. So you got 3 very good corners to build around for the future. Cromartie's got a pretty big contract salary, if I'm not mistaken. And if, those 2 rookies shine, he could be easily replaceable. And so that makes it much easier. But I for the most part, I would agree with you with Tavon Austin. I just don't think he's going to drop. And I mean, 9, sure they could get him. It all depends on how the draft works, and who knows, with the picks they got, they could, make a trade. So we'll see tonight.
Yeah, you mentioned Tyrann Mathieu. I think he's probably the most polarizing figure in this year's draft. It's really going to be interesting to see how he shakes up. I mean, he's not going to go tonight. He already canceled his draft party, but I think, he's going to be just so fun to watch because, and I was listening to the BS report, I think yesterday, and Bill Simmons had a guest on, and he was saying how every year there's a few of these weed guys who their status always falls because of whether they failed the drug test at their school, failed one at the combine, for whatever reason they failed the drug test and their status falls. But you think about it, Randy Moss, Percy Harvin, Warren Sapp, these guys still go on to have great careers.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not just the drug tests, that the failing of it, that lowers their stock. I mean, I remember Des Bryant. There was a scout who claimed his mother was a prostitute, right? And I mean, look at him now. He's top 10. His numbers are ridiculous. And I mean, just his attitude when he was at Oklahoma State lowered his stock, but skill-wise, he's one of the best in the league. I mean, it's the skill. The one thing we talked about on our last podcast is that Red Sox were building a team full of character. That's not really what you can do on the NFL level. You have to have the skill, and then I think then you have to have the character. It's 2 different leagues, but that's just how I feel. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think, it's funny because if he was eligible for the draft last year, he would have been a top 10 pick.
Easily.
Probably higher than his teammate Morris Claiborne. So to think that, I know he didn't play football at all this year, which definitely hurts, probably more so than failing the drug test. I still think he has the potential to certainly be one of the biggest steals of this year's draft. You're just going to have to figure out whether or not he is a good fit for your team, because the distractions that he could bring to a locker room could be decimating. So you never know what's going to happen.
All right, we're going to transition into the next topic. It's still going to remain in football. We're going to talk about our first round sleeper for the NFL draft. And we're back. So back to the topic about our sleeper for the first round, or just sleeper in general. I'm saying first round because my guy that I chose is first round. And I just think this guy's really good. Matt Elam, the free safety from Florida. He's projected to be a 20th, mid-late first to really late first. And he's not going to drop into second round, I believe. But Matt Elam, he is the 2-year starter at Florida. He is just one of the best, I think. He's going to be the best to come out of this draft, and he looks really strong. And I mean, they're projecting him anywhere from the not really the Bears at 20, but Bengals at 21, even down to Packers, and then even at like the Patriots. And I just think whatever team gets him, they're going to be lucky. He is a player. I think he's better than Eric Reed and even Vaccaro from Texas. I just think his upside is pretty impressive. And so, Matt, what do you got?
Well, my sleeper for the draft now, I've seen this guy going all over the boards, whether it be first round or second round or even later, and that's Matt Barkley, quarterback out of USC. Now, this guy decided to come back for his senior year last year. He was a preseason Heisman finalist, and the season couldn't have gone any worse for him. Between his injuries and lack of production, he kind of just fell off the cliff and plummeted down everyone's big boards. But I still don't think that just because your team wasn't successful during the year, that you're going to, or that you don't have the same level of talent. You know, I think a similar comparison could be Sam Bradford, you know, another guy who came back for his senior year. Granted, his skill level's higher, but he's still a decent quarterback in the league. And I think Matt Barkley could could be more like an Aaron Rodgers, get drafted late, sit under a starting quarterback, learn the offense, and then when he comes in, he has a great understanding and could really perform.
I completely disagree. Sam Bradford was number 1 overall. Aaron Rodgers, yeah, he was a later draft pick, but he was under Brett Favre, one of the best in the league at the time. And the only thing I like about Barkley, and this is, it's a good intangible to have. He had an offense that was a pro style, and that was the good thing. Just about him, he's not tall, he doesn't have the greatest arm strength, and he doesn't really run very well. And he's just a bit inconsistent to me. And I don't see your comparisons to Bradford and Rodgers. It's not a good comparison for me.
Well, I just feel like, within the last, say, 3 years, we've seen guys get drafted in the first round, and they're expected to make the start week 1 and perform at a high level. Now, though we're seeing more and more guys be able to do that, I still think the traditional format of having a guy be the backup for even just say the first 8 weeks, I think they learn a lot about the offense, a lot about preparation for a game, and I think they're just more prepared. And I think it's better than learning on the fly. You know, guys like Eli Manning, Tony Romo, even Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, they all came into the league not starters week 1. But this is just a sleeper pick, so I don't really know how it's going to... It's going to really come down to what team he gets drafted in. He's going to have to fall into the right situation.
The one thing I got to add, again, why I don't see him as a good NFL starter in the future. Matt Barkley had arguably one of the best tandem wide receivers in college with Woods and Marquise Lee. Now, I don't know where Woods is going to be in the draft. He's going to be
first round. Easily
maybe
a first round, I think.
Yeah, you don't really know because there's just so much that goes into the preparation. And when you think about the last couple of teams, if he goes to the last half, they all have I'm looking at them, they all have pretty good wide receivers. But that's not to say they wouldn't draft him. Now, Marquise Lee, he could be the best wide receiver in college next year. And with those wide receivers, he didn't perform to the level that he should have. Now, in the NFL, granted, there are better wide receivers. They're more skilled, more talented. But if you can't deal with the best tandem wide receivers in college, how are you going to do it with better wide receivers in the NFL, with better corners, with better safeties, with better coverage linebackers? It's just going to... I just don't see him flourishing as well as people think he may.
Well, that's the thing. I don't think people are expecting him to flourish well. I think I think at the end of the day, we look back on this class. I think, first of all, we're going to be really disappointed in these quarterbacks. I don't think Matt Barkley's going to be the next Aaron Rodgers. I think he has the potential to be the best quarterback of this class, which I think, right now the hot trend is these athletic hybrid quarterbacks, which I don't see lasting in the NFL too long.
Yeah, there's too many big guys. I mean, not. I just see injuries happening. I mean, the first time I saw the athletic quarterback was really kind of Pat White, Miami, and he had a horrific injury. I believe it was Pittsburgh. He just got a horrific injury, and he was done the rest of the season. And I don't think he came back. He went into the Arena Football League, and I mean, he's doing all right there. But boy, you just think their injuries that the running quarterbacks, athletic quarterbacks are having, they're going to be horrific. And I mean, I don't know if they can sustain themselves in the NFL. RG3 is very, very good, not taking away anything from him, but we've seen it in just his first season. He had a mild concussion, but it can get worse. And I mean, tearing his knee up, that was just the same thing. It was bad. I mean, it obviously got worse because he was playing on it, but I don't know. I just don't see them lasting too long in the NFL. They're just too much risk. That's why pocket quarterback seems like it always will be the best way to go.
All right, well, we'll take a break and come back with some NBA playoffs. And we're back with some NBA playoffs. So we are 2 games into each series, and right now this first round has been very disappointing. 14 of the 16 games have been won by the home team. So that means only 2 series are at 1-1. That's the Brooklyn Nets and the Chicago Bulls and the Denver Nuggets and the Golden State Warriors. Now, I was listening to one of the TNT telecasts, and Charles Barkley brought up a great point, and I have to agree with him, is that this has the chance to be one of the worst first-round playoffs in a while. I mean, 2 teams winning on the road in the first 2 games of each series. I mean, that is not good. I mean, what series has a chance to go for 7 games?
Maybe the Golden State Warriors and Denver Nuggets. I don't think.
But
Bulls
that David Lee injury really hurts.
That hurts. But I mean, it kind of. You think about it. It kind of is evened out. I mean, David Lee, I would say, is more valuable than Gallinari.
True.
Because of his size and the rebounds. But that's one. I don't think Brooklyn and Chicago. I think without Rose, and we've been saying it the whole season, and Chicago's proved us wrong time and time again, that I just don't think Chicago could stay with Brooklyn. Darren Williams should be thriving with what's going on right now without Rose. If they had Rose, I don't think Chicago would be the number 5 seed. Either way, it might be Denver and Golden State, and only way Golden State stays in it is if Steph Curry drops almost 40 every single night. There's no other way.
Yeah, I agree. The only other series that I think has a chance is the Clippers-Grizzlies series, because I think home court just is so much in that series that I think I wouldn't be surprised if the Grizzlies win the next 2 games, and then it goes back to LA wins, and then it goes back to Memphis wins, and then LA ultimately wins in Game 7. I wouldn't be surprised.
You might see that. I don't know. Now, one series that I'm actually really surprised with is the New York Knicks and Boston. Now, I thought that the New York Knicks were going to dump maybe that second game. Boston looks tired. And now, I don't think Boston, that could be a 5-game series, even a 4-game. Who knows? I mean, I was watching it, and Doc just got fined, but who knows?
Yeah, definitely. I think that Boston, I think they'll win one game at home. I think the emotion will be high, and I think that the Knicks will win it in 5.
Now, the last matchup that I was really surprised about was Oklahoma City and Houston. Houston, it looked like they were going to blow another game, came back, were leading, and then they blow it. I mean, I don't know. Houston surprised me with actually taking the lead, and then they blew it. I thought Houston could put up actually a good fight, but it doesn't look like it.
Yeah, that'll definitely be a series to watch. Well, we are out of time here. Thank you for tuning in. We will try to get you an episode later in the week, probably when this first round concludes. So thank you very much.